concussion coming off that thing standing right here.
I recently did a review on a pretty slick little Czech firearm, the CZ Bren 805. Well, today I present you with its predecessor and one of the more notorious Czech firearms, or at least a clone thereof. Enter the VZ2008, and what seems to be a successful American Century Arms made copy of the VZ58. Now hold off on the hate, we'll get back to Century in a minute. First, the Czech VZ58. Here in the United States, it's always struggled a little bit for recognition. This largely due to the legendary AK-47, which you'll pretty much find in every other gun safe in America. The VZ feels kind of like the little brother, ever obscured by Big Brother's shadow. In the Czech Republic, on the other hand, the VZ58 is the big daddy. You'll find it 5-to-1 before you run into an AK. They absolutely adore their homegrown 7.62x39 slinger. In the late 50s, when every other Iron Curtain covered country fell in line with the AK-47, the Czechs were allowed their own design, and they certainly believe that they have the better of the two with the VZ58. It's a true testament of Czech firearm manufacturing prowess. So coming back here to this VZ2008, we now have our own domestically built VZ58, alleviating many of those nagging 922R compliance issues. And just maybe, this could help to build respect for the platform in the land of the free and the home of the brave. So what's the big deal? The VZ2008 is just a poor man's AK ripoff anyway, right? Actually, far from it. In fact, Yuri Chermak, the VZ's designer, would be insulted if you said such a thing. Look a little closer, and besides basic aesthetics and caliber, it's no more similar to an AK than your Browning High Power is to a German Luger. There is literally not a single interchangeable part between the VZ and an AK. As far as design, the VZ is striker-fired, operated on a short-stroke gas system versus the traditional hammer-fired AK and its hulking long-stroke piston. The VZ is manufactured solely with milled steel receivers, where AKs are generally stamped these days. And despite the heavier weight and more expensive process of milling a receiver, VZs stay very affordable. And believe it or not, are lighter on average by a full pound up to 2 with some models of AKs. Plus a few more ounces if you include magazines. Long story, the VZ really is a nimble feeling little thing. Another killer feature on this Czech marvel is the last round bolt hole open, a pretty rare feature during its day. And I love me a bolt hole open. It even stays open after the mag is removed. On the downside, there is no bolt release, so you're still going to be stuck reaching up and popping that charging handle. A bit of a waste if you ask me, but it still saves a fraction of a second over fully charging the weapon on a fresh magazine like with an AK-47. Now, if you're a lefty, you're going to be a little sad to hear that the design of the trigger guard makes it difficult to depress the magazine release, for those of you in your right mind. And it's also going to limit you tactical mag thrashers to more traditional methods. There's no way to karate chop that thing out of there. Also, though they hold a strong resemblance, not even the magazines are compatible with an AK. All VZ mags are aluminum, lightweight, and affordable, but your favorite polymer or heavy-duty steel AK mags aren't going to be an option here. But hey, you can always load that VZ with stripper clips if you want to go old school. Let's see your AK do that. The VZ is also blessed with an easily accessible thumb safety. It works fast and flawlessly, definitely destroying that stupid traditional AK safety, which requires to move your hand completely away from the pistol grip and can be a little awkward and slow without practice. Accuracy-wise, it's generally accepted that the VZ edges the AK by a small margin. Now, certainly not all AKs are created equal, so it's hard to gauge. But just taking the average 4 MOA AK, and the VZ is going to outshoot it, printing closer to the 3 MOA range. So without a doubt, neither one was designed with precision in mind, but they're serviceable. Hammers, not scalpels, right? The shot impulse on a VZ is a little less jarring than an AK, but not by much. You still get that real satisfying heavy metal feel. One of the major complaints you'll run into with the VZ is how it opens up the action to debris while firing. And true, it does do that, while an AK on the other hand has a dust cover preventing this. But on the flip side, the AK leaves the internals vulnerable to contamination anytime the safety is turned to fire. While when you disengage the safety on the VZ, it's completely sealed, nothing changes externally. The basic argument here is that you'd rather have your rifle completely sealed from ingress at all times until firing, where it's more likely to slough off the gunk and grime. But who really cares about all this? I know of no documentable evidence that either of these mechanisms are a serious cause of malfunction. Okay, so at this point I think we've reasonably established that VZs are definitely their own species, separate and apart in every way from the similar looking AK-47. Though I completely understand it's very hard not to compare them as two competing comb-block primary assault rifles, so let's just keep going with it. When it comes to overall build quality, generally speaking on average, the VZ58s are of higher quality than an AK. But right here we're talking the VZ2008 made by Century, so take it or leave it. Yeah, you can definitely find far superior quality AKs out there. All the same, I'm impressed with what Century's done right here with the 2008. As of right now, it seems to far surpass some of their previous work, and the action of the 2008 is just like any VZ58 I felt. Much smoother than what you'd find on all but the higher end AKs. And the reliability of this VZ2008 should be well worthy of betting your life on. Sure, the original VZ58 saw nowhere near the combat of the AK-47, so for proven track record, yeah, the AK rules, but the VZ58 has shown it's worthy of praise. And for all we know, had Yuri been Russian born, the VZ might be the most widely used firearm in the world instead of the AK. Yeah, I'm talking in theoreticals. But personally, I've yet to hit a speed bump with this VZ2008. It seems to be living up to the 58 name 100%. I feel I've got to note that some users, after heavy use, have found that the VZ seems to be a little bit more sensitive to powder residue or debris in the fire control group. It has, in rare cases, caused the trigger to fail to reset after extensive use. But because most of us civvies are operating in semi-auto, we're far less likely to encounter this. And if you hose your trigger group out every few thousand rounds, you'll be set. But as a word of caution, if you do disassemble your VZ for any kind of cleaning, you want to make sure you put every part back in its place. It can't be fired without the bolt locking piece, and that would absolutely ruin your trip to the range and maybe your face. So don't do that. And how is the VZ aftermarket, you ask? Well, third-party support is thin pickings. It's not too hard to come across the original magazines right now. They're pretty plentiful and very affordable. But after that, it's a crapshoot for parts and accessories. I have seen a couple aftermarket handguards for modularity and to keep from playing hot potato after a couple mag dumps. The stock handguard really does get toasty. Also, the lack of optics mounting options is disappointing. Again, here there are a handful of rudimentary receiver attachments, but if you don't like these options, you're stuck with the stock sights, which leave much to be desired. That is unless you're a fan of shooting archaic headache-inducing sights. Yeah, I suppose they work, just like your $400 Kia Rio gets you to the grocery store, but you could do better. And really, in diminished visibility, you might as well be shooting from the hip. Also, the folding stock on the VZ2008 Sporter version right here blows big stinky chunks. I mean nasty stinky chunks. It's difficult and painful to get a solid cheek weld. I do like the folding stock mechanism, and overall it really is more friendly than the cursed underfolder. And yeah, a fixed stock would be far more comfortable, but this is just cool. I'm looking into covering up this cold edgy steel with some sort of padded tube. Once I figure that out, I think it'll be more than acceptable. So overall, I'm really digging this little piece of hardware. The lightweight, small profile is very attractive, and the accuracy and quality is far above the price point. A price point that makes me feel okay about leaving it in the trunk of my car. Again, I really love the last round bolt hold open, placing it ahead of its time, though still a little behind modern rifles without the bolt release. There really are few negatives to this value rifle. Sure, if you're a lefty, you may feel a little left out, and there isn't a whole lot of support for it yet. That could be coming down the road. It's a little dated ergonomically, and that handguard does get real hot. Otherwise, this thing's a special piece of history that could serve you practically as well. So, if you're already into rugged retro guns, or maybe you just want something different from the ubiquitous AK to mix up the monotony, please step up and take your VZ2008.